Here's why saving money is my last focus as an investor. When I invest, I know that I can generate some sort of return for my portfolio. And so assuming that I have that skill set, I've built up the ability to generate passive income or even active income for myself whenever I need it. If I am saving money, I am communicating to myself, communicating to my own mind, to my own psychology, to my own confidence that, hey, I better save this money because maybe there won't be so much money in the future. So think about the psychology of saving. A lot of times we save the things that we feel like we might not have access to later on. So let's say, for example, we're given one meal a day. Randomly, we have days where there are no meals. So we get one meal, let's say Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday, sometimes we don't have a meal. Well, that's gonna encourage us to, on Tuesday, save our meal or maybe part of our meal so that just in case, we can have some food to eat on Wednesday as well. We have a certain mindset going into that situation that, hey, I don't know, tomorrow I might not have food in that scenario. As an investor, our food is money. We have money that we're generating because we need to cover our daily living expenses, our monthly expenses, and we want to create more and more income with that money. With that money that we're making, we have the confidence that we can continue generating more and more income and passive income, preferably month after month after month. Even big wins can affect our confidence to produce money in the future because we had this really big win. Let's say we usually make $100,000 a month, and then randomly we had something amazing happen and we made $1 million in a month. That could communicate to us a little bit of insecurity actually. Even though it's a massively positive event that occurred, that can negatively impact our psychology as an investor. So massive losses, massive wins, sometimes they're not as good as they seem. We have to be able to moderate and control our emotions going into it because we can become too ecstatic. That can cause us to be overconfident in our next investments and risk everything. So we could lose that whole $1 million that we made, or it could take the contrary side and make us a lot more careful because now all of a sudden we're like, oh no, I just made $1 million in a month. I've never made that in a month. And so psychologically, we're not really confident that we could do that again because we feel like we got lucky. In that situation, as humans, our natural reaction is to save that money. And so saving is actually a defense mechanism in order to protect ourselves from potentially having maybe a rainy day or something that happens in the business. This is not to say that you shouldn't save at all. I definitely think that there's a good reason to save in general. However, it shouldn't be our first course of action. All the money that we make, we shouldn't be focused on saving as much as possible. And there's a teaching going around that, hey, save as much as you possibly can, reduce your expenses, and that's the way to become a millionaire or, multimillionaire. That's not quite the case. I believe that you can achieve millionaire status a lot faster if you simply put that money to use. Now, is it possible to lose everything? Of course. It's investing. Investing is risky, carries a certain degree of risk, and I've experienced losses in my own career, but because I've managed my risk correctly, those losses didn't really do much. Overall, my portfolio was still massively profitable because I was properly diversified across many different asset classes, and I protected myself even in the case that I did lose one or two investments. If we do our due diligence, if we manage our risk, there's no reason that we should be losing money in the long run. This brings me back to saving. Should we still be saving? I personally save as little money as I possibly can. I keep maybe a couple months of expenses in an easily accessible savings account, but honestly, I usually keep it to 1 month or less. And the reason that I do that is because that money, if it's just sitting in my bank account, it's not doing anything. What I've found is that the most successful investors in the world, particularly the ones that were able to climb that hill the fastest, that hill of wealth, they were able to make themselves broke every single month. And here's what I mean by that. They basically, any money that they make, let's say they make $100,000, their monthly expenses maybe $10,000, well, they will literally spend that entire $100,000 on investment, not on luxury goods, not on exotic cars and things that they want just for fun, but they spend it on investments. So let's say they take that $100,000 and they put it into real estate. Okay, now they're making an additional maybe $1,000 or $2,000 in cash flow every single month. The point is that they want to be able able to create cash flow that pays for their expenses. Any active income that they make, any even passive income that they make, they want to invest the majority of it, and they want to make themselves broke every single month. You have a bank account that has maybe $5,000 or $10,000 in it, something that you need for immediate expenses for your business, but the rest of the money gets invested immediately because that's just going to continue growing your cash flow. And so if we can focus ourselves not on saving money, but on increasing our passive income and increasing the cash flow that we bring in every single month, we're going to see a major shift in our lives, and we're going to see the ability to create massive passive income. And so to create massive passive income, we have to become obsessed with reinvesting as much as we possibly can. It's not saving money, it's reinvesting. If you're a huge fan of saving, here's a little bit of a hybrid model that you can use. There are certain assets that are extremely safe to invest into, and you can treat those as your savings account. So instead of having a savings account that pays you maybe 0.1% interest a year, what you could do is take that money and put it into something like, let's say, a house. That becomes sort of like a savings account. If you don't immediately sell it and you just keep that money in there, you're just gonna continue building equity. And that house is gonna make you way more than an interest-bearing savings account would. More of an active investment than a savings account is. If you think about it, that's exactly what the bank is doing. If you gave them $100,000, they're gonna lend out $1 million, which is backed by your $100,000. The figures can change and the figures are different, but generally speaking, they lend out to a certain factor of what you deposited. So why don't you do that as an investor and use that money to generate income for you? When they're going out and lending this money, a lot of times they're funding real estate deals. One of my favorite investments is Airbnbs. I teach a lot about that in my program. Airbnbs, we do exotic car rentals, we use Forex trading software. There's so many opportunities out there to generate passive income extremely easily. A lot of these are so passive that you literally could never even check on them and still make massive passive income. The goal is to make as much money as possible with as little work as possible, because we don't want to work harder, we want to work smarter. We want to create a system that causes our money to work for us, because that money is going to go out there and it's just going to continue multiplying and multiplying and multiplying, and our bank account is going to continue growing. And guess what? Every time we get a payout from our investments, do we put it in our savings account? Do we put it under our pillow? Do we put it in a safe? No, we take that money and we invest as much of it as we possibly can in order to continue growing our passive income. And that's when you start seeing compound growth. Trust me guys, one of the coolest things about investing is seeing compound interest begin to work in your favor. If you keep reinvesting your profits, it keeps growing and growing and growing to a point where you're able to support your lifestyle and you have more than enough money from these passive income investments, and then use the rest of that money to keep reinvesting and keep growing that passive income until you've created a portfolio that's not only going to support you and your family, but also your children and their families as well. Guys, hopefully this was helpful. This is exactly why I do not save money. That's my last thought in every scenario. I always think about reinvesting before I think about saving. So hopefully this makes sense to you and you understand why we invest before we ever save. I'll see you all in the next video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.